Can you feel that your body is alive?
Mm-hmm.
Because when you feel the aliveness inside your body, I call it inner body, the usually hyperactive mind slows down. Now the hyperactive mind is extremely repetitive. You might have noticed that probably 99% of your thoughts, you've had them before, they are repetitive. So new thoughts are relatively rare when there's only the hyperactive mind. It's just the same old things going through your mind again and again. The moment you feel the inner body, in order to be able to feel the aliveness here, some of your attention has to go from the head within into the body. So you're removing some attention away from thinking. It doesn't necessarily mean that thinking stops totally, but it subsides, slows down. There may even be little spaces in between one thought and the next thought. So thinking slows down because part of your attention is in the inner energy field, the aliveness that most people never feel because they're so absorbed in their thoughts they don't even feel that they are alive anymore. So thinking subsides and there are even little spaces in between thoughts, and then it's much more likely that thoughts that come then are new thoughts. Sometimes they are insights, they are new ways of looking at things, sudden realizations. They can only come if you are able to calm the mind, but not as something that you feel, I need to calm my mind, but simply by diverting attention away from it, not by making some effort to calm your mind. All you do is you take attention away from it, and so then there is more spaciousness, not just one thought after another, and then your thinking actually improves, which means it's more alive, more original, it's more powerful, you have better ideas, and the way in which you interact with people is more real, because the real comes not from the accumulated stuff in your mind. That's all the roles that you play, not just you, everybody. Everybody plays their roles. They've been conditioned to play certain roles. You have an image of who you are. When you meet a beautiful woman, you play a certain role. You want to have the best possible image. You present the best possible image, and she does the same. You can observe it when two young people are attracted to each other. They meet the first few days and weeks. They look different from the way they usually look because they present an image that wants to attract the other, and it's unconscious. It's a role that they play. It's only after the honeymoon, when everyday life begins, that gradually the image, and you believe that that image that you see in her is who she is, and she believes that you don't know that you're both playing roles, but you cannot keep up the roles indefinitely. So after the honeymoon, gradually they wear down the roles, and then there becomes some discontent arises, and suddenly the mask slips. The role is, you can't play a role continuously. The role of me, the attractive one. So that's to get out of the role playing that otherwise you're stuck with for the rest of your life. You have a certain role for your partner for a while. You have another role for your work situation. You have another role for wherever you go. You slip into subtle differences in the way in which you behave. When you talk to the chairman of the board or the Dalai Lama, you will behave in a certain way, and then you might notice when you talk to the plumber, there will be subtle differences in the way in which you talk. You play a different role. You think, oh, this is not appropriate here.
Right.
It's only when you stop playing roles, when you observe the Dalai Lama, how he behaves, Now, you might have thought, well, the Dalai Lama probably plays the role of the Dalai Lama, but he doesn't. There's such simplicity, openness, and genuineness in him. He talks the same way to everybody. Whether he meets the plumber or the Pope makes no difference, because he doesn't play conditioned roles anymore. And that is only possible when you access a dimension within yourself that is deeper than the mind. And we just did it, or we are still doing it, simply by taking attention away from thought and direct it into the aliveness of the body. That means suddenly there's some space between thoughts. And then you can relate to other human beings more genuinely. And you don't need to prepare things that you're going to say next. You don't say things in order to manipulate that person. You don't say things in order to create an effect. They simply, spontaneity comes out of that place. The spontaneity doesn't come out of the accumulated stuff in your mind. The spontaneity comes only to the extent that you can access the dimension that is deeper than mind, which we may call the deeper I, which we may call alert stillness. That is always there. Alert spaciousness. Access that, so mind subsides, then you live differently. The more you access, now at the moment, these are only glimpses for you, but that's good enough. A glimpse later becomes a wider space of that. So that is something to remember, not as a memory, but to remember to do in your daily life as much as possible. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, whoever you are talking to, or even when you're alone, go within sometimes and feel that the body is alive. There's life in my hands. You're not imagining anything, you actually feel that there is an aliveness here. And then once you can feel the hands, you can feel the arms, the feet, the legs. You are inhabiting the body. And the body loves that. It loves your attention. Most people don't give their body attention, even if they look after the body extremely, like you go to a gym every day, or you use all kinds of stuff to put on your body. You might think that these people are looking after their body, but all they're looking after is the external of the body. They are not necessarily present within. They cannot feel the aliveness. Some maybe they can, but most not. They're only concerned with the external body. Here we are concerned with the inner. And it doesn't matter. The inner body has nothing to do with what the external body looks like. Whether you're 80 years old or 20 years old, whether you have a young body or an old body, the sensation of the inner body is always the same. It's alive. And the body loves your attention. It's a bit like when you don't give enough attention to a child, after a while the child cries because it wants to attract your attention. The baby does it, and then you give, because attention is energy, it's enormous energy. Now most attention is consciousness. Most attention for most people is continuously absorbed by thinking. You can see it when you talk to them. They're not there, really. They're thinking. They're looking at you, but they're thinking about the next thought they're going to ask. As you sit there, maybe you're thinking about, okay, what's my next question? And that's normal. It's not a personal fault of yours. It's normal to lose yourself. And then you lose, that means you're not really present when you're thinking about the next thing. So that's normal. So you don't have to beat yourself up for that. It's normal. But there is another way to live. And that's the way to be present, to give attention, not just to your thoughts, to give attention to your body. If you don't give enough attention to a child, of course a child can also become addicted to attention, but that's a different matter. There needs to be a balance. But a child does need attention it's vital, not an excessive amount, but enough, because attention is energy. And the body loves it as much as a child. It wants to be noticed, it wants your attention. And if it doesn't, it cries. It might become ill. That's the crying of the body. You're neglecting it. You're not inhabiting it. You're inhabiting the uppermost loft in your house. You're in a big house and you live always under the roof. You never go downstairs. There are lots of floors. You have no idea what's going on there. So that's a vital thing. And it is a way of also accessing the space within. That is the I that has no form. That is the consciousness. That is also intelligence. We think of intelligence as the mind's ability to accumulate knowledge and to solve problems. That's probably what we consider to be intelligence, but that's an extremely narrow view of what intelligence is. What people can measure in IQ tests is an extremely narrow view of intelligence. I cannot solve the simplest of IQ tests. So I've never done a total test, but I'm sure my IQ would be extremely low because that is not how this mind works. Solving little puzzles, I've never been able to do that. But intelligence is a much vaster thing than the ability to accumulate information and then regurgitate it or analyze it or cut it into smaller and smaller pieces, what they do at universities, research projects. The pieces are getting smaller and smaller and smaller. The PhD subjects are getting more and more and more specialized because so many people are working on things, and then you have to watch your tiny piece. Like, okay, I take this piece in my PhD about that. You can cut that up 100 times. And then once you've written your PhD, somebody else comes and takes a tiny piece out of that and says, oh, I can cut this up even further. And that's considered intelligence. But the true intelligence resides in that dimension of alert stillness. If you have access to that, that's where the original intelligence resides. So anybody who is creative, and there are not that many human beings in this world who are truly creative, anybody who's creative has some access, perhaps only in the little area of their field of expertise, where they have some access to that dimension, the stillness. Einstein had it. He was very slow. He was not considered intelligent at school because he was too slow. They said not suitable for mathematics, they said, and physics, because his thinking was very slow. Now what does it mean? It means there were lots of spaces in between the thoughts. He wasn't at school like one of the so-called intelligent children who always, when the teacher asks a question, the hand goes up immediately. I know. That's very superficial. Occasionally it may be okay, but there are some children, and that is not recognized by our society, who are very deeply intelligent, but not in the way that we consider intelligence, and they tend to be slower. They don't immediately have an answer because they know it's superficial. To have a true answer, you have to go deeper within. But if you allowed those children to go deeper, then you would see how original their thinking actually is. So when we just you went into the body, already you noticed some new thoughts came, not the old thoughts. It only requires a tiny space for something new to arise. Not that you're doing it in order to have new thoughts, you're doing it because it feels good to feel the aliveness within you. And the more familiar you become with that, with inhabiting your body, the more strongly you can feel that aliveness. It's almost as if you could feel every cell of the body vibrating slightly. And it's a beautiful feeling, just an aliveness there. And that is an enormously healing thing to do for the body.